everybody, I'm Geraldine, your P5 Snapask Tutor. Today is the first lesson for our P5 English class. Okay, I will explain how the structure of our English class will go for the rest of the term. For the first part, maybe the first half an hour or so, we will talk about grammar. And we'll cover subjects like present tense, past tense, future tense, quantifiers, modals, and so on and so forth. Okay, this will address maybe your Compre Close, and you will address the grammar close passage, the MCQ segment. The second part of the lesson, we'll talk about writing. There will be parts about continuous writing, your composition section, and maybe for 2 weeks in week 7 and week 8, we'll talk about your situational writing. Then we'll conclude the term by using some examples, the whole length essay examples, so you can see how it flows as a whole composition. Okay, without further ado, let's begin. So continuous meaning it is happening over a period of time. So you use the ing form of the verb. I will explain it with examples. The first instance you use the present continuous tense is to refer to something that happened at that moment of speech or a current activity lasting over a period of time. For example, I am brushing my teeth at the sink. Another example, I am learning about the present tense this term. Okay, so using the second example, let me draw on the timeline. So in January, the term has started, and this is March, the end of the term. So throughout the term, you have been learning about the present tense. And so you use the present continuous tense to describe your learning process. Next, you also use the present continuous tense to describe arrangements made for the future. What do I mean? The concert is starting at 7 p.m. So is starting here, it is a present continuous tense. Say now it is 2 p.m. And in the future, the concert will start. So in this situation, you also use the present continuous tense. The last of the present tense that we'll be going through is the present perfect continuous tense. It is a combination of the present perfect and the continuous tense. Okay, so you use this for situations where you refer to an action that started in the past and continues till the time of speaking. Example 1. Mr. Lim is tired because he has been driving for 2 hours. So say Mr. Lim started driving here at 7 p.m. And then now is 9 p.m. So he has been driving in his car for a long time and therefore he is tired. But it continues beyond 9 p.m. and therefore you use has been driving instead of the present perfect tense like has drove. Now let's combine everything together with the grammar MCQ. Okay, Tom is training, was training, has been training, had been training daily for the past 2 months to prepare for the upcoming race this Saturday. Okay, now the key words here are the upcoming race this Saturday, which is to say that he started something in the past, he is continuing to the present and all the way until this Saturday. And so the answer is 3, and this is the present perfect continuous tense. Next, okay, everybody in class agreed, or have agreed that BTS sings poorly. The answer is 2. Agrees. This is the present tense because it is consensus. Or it's a simple present tense because it is consensus. Next question. Not wearing a mask in public is, are, was, were considered a crime. You can be fined if found guilty. Answer is 1. This is the simple present tense because it is a truth. You can really be fined. Okay, next. He has been practicing or had been practicing his piano routine for the past 3 hours. Okay, keyword here is past 3 hours and the answer is number 3. So this is the present perfect continuous tense. Why? Started in the past, still continuing till now, and it might be continuing after 3 hours. So hardworking, right? How many of you do that? Okay, next. Okay, Aaron's odd temperament took or has been taking a toll on the relationships he has with his friends. His friends now shun him when they see him. Keyword here, now. So the answer is number 2, is taking, and that will be the present continuous tense. What should a good introduction be? So a good introduction should catch the reader's attention. Okay, what else? It should set the time, the place, and the mood of the story. Okay, and lastly, it should also introduce the characters. Okay, now you might think, oh, so many things to consider, but so long as you fulfill the next part that I'm going to talk about, a good introduction must be, then you'll be fine. Okay, so what must a good introduction be? It must be clear and logical. Okay, you can start an introduction with number 1, a sound. Okay, for example, clang, the sound of pots. Say for example, your setting is in the kitchen. Okay, then you can use this as a starting point. Alternatively, you can also write something like do 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 do. What does it sound like? Maybe the train doors closing, and so on. Okay, now points to note for this type of introduction for sound is that it has to be something that is significant. Significant. What do I mean by that? So it should not be maybe sounds that are very, very, very soft. For example, if you turn on and off the light switch, so sounds of switches, maybe you cannot really include that. Or maybe you cannot talk about the sound of a mosquito, because sometimes you cannot really hear. You can hear bzzz, but that's more like a bee, right? Mosquito. And maybe you shouldn't also use something that you cannot spell. Cannot. Sorry about that. Cannot spell. For example, if you are typing on the keyboard, how do you spell that? If you're not sure, don't use it. Okay. You should also write sounds that are relevant. Okay. If the setting is a football field, you cannot talk about something that's happening in the kitchen. You cannot talk about the sound of pots and pans. Okay. Now moving on. Next, number 2 would be sayings and facts. One example being, the only sure thing about luck is that it will change. It means your luck is never constant. What other sayings or facts can you think about? I can give you one more example. Maybe time waits for no one. Maybe you have also heard of things like practice makes perfect, or you have heard of things like, okay, let me write that down as well. Practice makes perfect. Maybe when you're complaining about homework for mathematics and your teacher says, practice makes perfect, you can use that as a starting for your composition. Or you can say something like, knowledge is power. Let me write that down too. Knowledge is power. Okay, you only use this type of introduction if you have read a lot, or if you constantly read different books, or you are very well exposed to different kinds of readings. Now, you shouldn't be quoting somebody from the market, for example. It shouldn't be a dialogue. It should be something that is well known. Okay. Now, moving on, number 3 is about weather. This is quite a common one where students like to talk about, the dark clouds are looming overhead. Okay, let me give you more examples. It does not have to be very cliche. Okay, it can be something that happens often in your daily life. For example, a cold gust of wind brushed my nose. So if it's a cold day when you go outside, maybe your nose is a very sensitive nose, okay, and the wind brushes by, the first thing, your face doesn't feel it first, your nose is the one that feels it first. Okay, another one can be something like, it was a day so humid. What happens on a humid day? That everyone in class came back from recess perspiring profusely. Okay? It doesn't have to be completely about the weather, it can be how people react to the weather.